How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews back with a little bit of West Coast vibes up in this piece, but from East Coasters, nonetheless. A form of Grimm Brewing. It is their Mosaic Rewind. This is a West Coast India Pale Ale. This comes in at a little less than a month old. And it comes courtesy of my boy Kyle. Thank you very much. Kyle from Brooklyn set me off a bunch of Brooklyn jammers, and we're going to dive into this. And this has me super intrigued because I've had my fair share of Grimm stuff. A lot of kind of their pop series and their Berliner stuff, a lot of their Hazies, bunch of stouts. I don't think I've had anything kind of old school classic West Coast IPA. Not that this looks the part. Coloration wise it does, but it'll be interesting to see their take on, you know, classic style like that. Anyway, it looks the part of a West Coast IPA, but it's hazy. So it's one of those kind of tweener East Coast influence and a West Coast influence kind of West Coast IPAs. Not super crisp and clear. Label-wise, it reminds me of something, I don't know, like a jacket I'd wear in the 80s or something like that. So video game style kind of labeling to it, which I can get down with. And yeah, look at that. Soft kind of that West Coast coloration kind of haze to a little bit more kind of Marisada, kind of crystal malty stuff like that, as opposed to today's beers, which are pretty much just like super light or brewer sugar based kind of beers, stuff like that. So looks the part of a Westie, albeit a bit hazy. Let's get a nose. I mean, she definitely leans West Coast. There's more of a kind of, I would say, a fruity pininess to it, almost like a sweetened kind of pine to it. Nothing like super dank or super resinous. It's just kind of soft pininess with a sweetness to it that has like a little bit of like a crystallized kind of sugar kind of sweetness to it. So a sweet leaning, kind of fruity pine, kind of West Coast IPA done and done. Let's dive in. Cheers. I like that. That's good. Yeah. I mean, it is really one of those new school East Coast influence West Coast IPAs that I really dig. Pariah makes one in their pine. A couple of breweries have pulled it off, and it has that kind of New England style hazy treatment, but it has that lot of that West Coast influence here. Heavily pine leading, heavily old school. It's got to be, they call them Mosaic. I don't think this is straight Mosaic. It's got to have a couple other things going on with it, or they just kind of played the Mosaic in a specific way, or they found a specific batch of Mosaic that lean this direction, but it has that kind of sweetened, fruity kind of pininess to it. It's got a nice soft sweetness. I thought it was going to be a little bit more kind of saccharine sweet, a little bit more kind of residual sugar sweet. It's not coming off that way. It's got a softness to it, while at the same time you have that nice kind of West Coast kind of pininess going on. And it does finish relatively, for a hazy beer, relatively crisp and clear and pretty good stuff, to be perfectly honest with you. And, you know, it's kind of like one of those things, like you eat steak every day, you get a little bit, not worn out on steak, but it loses its sizzle. You know, West Coast IPAs, when you have one, that's quite nice in a world that's pretty much, especially where I live here on the East Coast, New England style IPA dominant. It's a nice kind of switch up. So that in of itself makes it a really fun beer, and I like it. I think it's tasty stuff, and yeah, one of the better kind of new school versions of West Coast IPA I've had. Like I said, it's up there with the Pariah Pine, and I forget the other breweries that have done it in the past, but it's kind of that new hybrid style West Coasty, and I dig it quite a bit. So let's talk about it. Is it one of the best West Coast influenced kind of IPAs that I've had as of late? Yes. Like I said, it does have that haziness going on for it, so it's not uber traditional in a sense, but just the way it kind of plays itself, it's really tasty stuff. And honestly, probably one of the better beers I've had from Grimm in quite some time. Value and availability, no idea, especially in today's climate. Who knows what's what? So Kyle, let us know what you paid for this, and leave you with if you like what we like this beer. If you like new school hazies, you're not too ashamed to admit that, but you're also an old school kind of beerhead, and that kind of West Coast IPAs have really turned you on. It's kind of the best of both worlds in that sense, in that it gives you that kind of rich kind of old schoolness with that kind of nice kind of fluffy new schoolness. Yeah, you know what I'm getting at. Anyway, really good stuff. So you dig kind of both ends of the spectrum, you'll dig this beer. So there you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massive. Want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a little Grimm right now. And hopefully see you next time. Cheers.